Okay, we will begin the June 5th City of Indianola study session. Our first item on the agenda tonight is discussion regarding parking signs around the square. I don't know, Ben, are you leading that chart?
Sure. Yeah. Mayor. So we've been looking at this issue for quite some time, and we've been talking to business owners and the Downtown Square Commission, the Downtown Merchants Group, Warren County, that come up with solutions to parking issues that we're facing on the square. And we're trying to look at things in a positive way, and then if we need to ratchet up the pressure to become more and more oriented. But we really do want to create an environment where people feel welcome, where they can come to our downtown square. In fact, one of the things that I repeatedly hear is that we need to invite people to the square to shop local and participate, supporting our local businesses even more so. It's been a long and hard journey going through this is what our fourth construction season between the Justice Center and all the work on the square, and now we're into the alleyways. And so certainly the construction efforts, both from the county and the city, have had a dramatic impact on our residents and our businesses, and feeling there is a place welcome that they can go and they can shop and patronize their local businesses as they did in the past. And so we put together, under the direction of our good mayor and community development director and chamber, we put together a parking task force to really start brainstorming different ideas, what we could do to try to address this issue. Because it's complicated. There's a lot of different things. It's easy to point the finger at one issue, but really it's a combination of lots of things, kind of a dying of a thousand cuts, if you will, just one thing. And so what we're really talking about doing is taking the approach of voluntary compliance and working up towards forced compliance if we need to. But those who have been involved in this parking task force has been our good mayor, Darren Heater, our representative on the county supervisors, Amanda Zwanziger from the chamber, Erica Roberts, and Amanda Rippinger from the Downtown Merchants and Commission, and then our city staff, chief, to our community development director, to our public works director, and myself. Just trying to talk about different things that we can do. We really need to start with our own house, right? And what we can do, what we can control. And that's the efforts that we have going on right now. So we have two different things that we're in the process of working on. The first is better designation and highlighting of where our parking lots are throughout our community. We have lots of parking. And it's very challenging because some of that parking is actually relatively close to the square, but it's perceptionally not close to the square. You'd have to walk longer to get a gallon of milk at Walmart from the Walmart parking lot than you would from a back parking lot to the square. But nevertheless, it's that perception. And yet we don't want to not have anybody park on the square because we want to show the vibrancy of the square. And so it's that fine balance of having good turnover of the square spaces. And that really comes down to awareness. It comes down to fact of those who are parking all day long in the square. But from the city perspective, what are things that we can do and we can influence? And the first thing is better designation of where our public parking spaces are. And so that's a process that has gone on. And AP has already designated a map that lays out all the different signs that we would be putting in to get directional information to the various parking lots that we have. We know that it's a little bit complicated right now because we have both the south and the north under construction. And here we're about to look at the west. We're holding off as long as we possibly can on the west side and the work that would be needed there. So anything we can do to try to better direct people to public parking spaces, they're off will be. So that's the picture you see on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, we've talked about different things that we can do to try to better enforce parking on the square. And enforcement is a real challenge. And there was an article that came out today, the paper, and I thought it went through the issues really well. we used to have 3-hour parking on the square, and parking on the square allowed us to chuck tires. And if somebody was there for longer than 3 hours, we could enforce. And I know that there's a certain element out there that would, let's say, if you put the public parking signs up, a lot of people will self-regulate. And just out of respect to the fact that they don't want to potentially get a ticket or have a negative impact on the businesses, they'll respect the fact that they could be only 3 hours on the square and then move on. But if people are still parked there all day long, then that creates an expectation on the police department that they would enforce 3-hour parking. If we don't have a good ability to enforce 3-hour parking, we handicap our police department by putting a law in effect that we can't enforce. And so some of the things that we could do to enforce, we'll talk about here in a little bit. It could be cameras, it could be meters, it could be different more draconian type things that would better enforce, and it's not as friendly or welcome. So the mid range, or the middle ground, I guess, that we're talking about doing is putting out there business patron only parking on the outsides of the square, and maybe some designated spots towards the inside of the square where the outsides have more limited parking. There's an idea that basically would welcome people to the square, and thank them for coming to the square, but invite them to be respectful of the businesses that are trying to have patrons come through their doors by asking for business patron parking. Would probably take care of that 90% who are going to be respectful, who would self-regulate, and not take care of the enforcement end of it. So we had different pictures of where we could go. We wouldn't be putting up new posts or new poles or anything like that, but these are just new signs. So far we've shared this with several different groups and business owners, and met with mixed feelings on it. I think people are feeling like it's a good start, but and maybe it'll take care of the problem. Let's see if it will. And if it doesn't take care of the problem, then we can always go down the more aggressive enforcement arm. But to talk about some of the other public parking things that we're talking about doing right now, I already mentioned the public parking lot designations and the directional signage that our Public Works Department's putting together. I already talked about the business patron only signs on the outside. Something else that's about to occur is that the city is soon to close on the purchase of the Regions Bank parking lot and that building. It was anticipated that we were going to close on May 15th. We ran into some abstract issues, and those have been resolved. And it's now going through a title opinion. We anticipate closing that property this week. One of the things that we've talked about doing, and I have not had a chance to visit with Regions Bank directly about it, but what we've talked about internally as staff is putting in automatic door openers, timed door openers on both ends, so that we could open up those doors at 6:45 each morning, shut them down at 6:15 each night, put in cameras in there so that we can watch what's going on in the hallway, because right now it's only open during the banking hours. And so we'd want to have better security by watching what's going on, and we can have our police department monitor that. If somebody happens to be in the hallway after hours, we can get automatic emails sent to our police department on if somebody happens to be in that hallway. But basically opening it up and inviting the county employees and public in general to park on the east parking lot and be able to have that direct access through the Regions Bank hallway, that alleyway that's been converted into an interior hallway, and have direct access to the county administration or Justice Center building.
Would that be open on Saturdays then, and Sundays, or just Saturdays, or just on work days?
We could do whatever is in the best interest, so long as it's being monitored by the police department. Certainly, we've already had the request of opening up during any kind of city event, because there is bathrooms in there that we could utilize. I do still need to run this by our different tenants, but I kind of felt like I'm in this uncomfortable state where I'm not really in a position to say that we're your landlord until we actually close. So those conversations are a little bit premature. But that's one thing that we can do to try to draw people, at least draw the county employees, if you will, off the square into our east parking lot. I know from a county perspective, the county has already offered incentives to their employees, a wellness benefit. They park off the square and commit to walking to the Justice Center. And they've already changed their court designation so that when they have court days and they mail out their information on when to appear and all that type of thing, that it already provides them will you please park in this parking lot, and information on where they should go. The next thing is.
Can I just ask one question? Or do they do the same thing then for jurors that are selected? If there's a jury trial, I mean, if they've got people that have to appear for a court date, I understand that. You know, if they do the same then for the jurors.
I don't know. I could find the answer to that, and I could also find the answer as far as the attorneys.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Whether
I believe so, because Charlie, isn't that why you designated the addresses? That
Yeah, that
the
was one of the reasons we did. that.
juries would also get that in their letters.
The list of everybody who was getting stuff sent out, but I thought that jurors was.
But we can check, figure it out. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so, but I'll verify for sure. And then awareness. One of the things that's in process from a county perspective is that they do have some repeat offenders who are parking on the square right now. And Supervisor Peter has indicated that he's more than willing to go out, find out who those employees are and go talk to them personally and encourage them to park off the square. And so he's taken that action item from our last meeting. And we definitely appreciate all three of our supervisors and their support as we've been trying to address this problem. And they've been getting some pressure as well to try to address the problem. The last thing that hasn't been taken place yet is a employee parking policy by the county and putting that as part of their employee handbook. And that's something else that we can encourage them to do. Yes, we can't create special laws that says this type of person can park on the square and this type of person can't. You can't write laws that way. But you can, from an employee perspective, say, hey, our employees are expected to park over here, and do that as a policy, an employment related policy. Working with business owners and the chamber, one of the ideas that came about was better communications and having some instructional videos. And Chief Scheer, who couldn't be here this evening and has to be excused, has volunteered to do some funny bits for us, running a 0.25K marathon from a parking lot to the steps of the Justice Center in his 1980s garb or Rocky type thing, just saying, look how long it took to actually get to the square and create some levity. And if that, maybe some pressure for people to become more aware that they're having an impact. A lot of people don't realize that you occupy a space all day long, preventing 30 other cars from utilizing that space all day long. And so that really is an impact on the residents. And helping to share that message through communications. We are about to advertise for our communications position here fairly soon. That'll start in the month of July. So having a greater effort in that area. If those things are not successful and are not working, we can go down the route of budgeting for cameras or meters and budgeting time for our police department to take a more active role in enforcement. And then of course, the long term is the parking structure that you talked about, the vision for the city. Right? But it's going to take all parties to come together and all take on try to get these issues resolved. With that, maybe I'll quiet for a while, let the council talk back and forth. One more thought on the whole subject.
I personally like the approach of starting with the signs. Can you go back a slide? I would not put cursive on your sign because anyone under the age of 20 cannot read cursive. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just going with, they stopped teaching it and
This is just me playing with hands
I
on.
know. Yeah, I think it's a good start.
Really smart.
Yeah, good point.
Mhm.
And not to get into the weeds on this. One of the things too, that I've had some folks say that when they first come off the highway, either on Ashland or Salem, They don't know if, obviously, this is a parking lot. We do have the sign out here for the south parking lot that shows public parking. It says public parking, but I'm kind of wondering too that, and maybe this is on AP's plan, but make sure that we have signage that says, public parking this way or a block this way, or
That's
one
what
block or 2 blocks. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying,
Lead to that, yeah.
yeah, something that says maybe a block here or whatever, but it's just, I understand. And Rob and Brian will probably attest to this, but I got people that have with a line that says no parking, they'll park there anyway. So you kind of spell things out sometimes too, so. Just some thoughts.
Question, so at the courthouse, they have designated parking spaces for like the sheriff's vehicles when they're there.
That in that area that's on the west side of the court of the Justice Center.
Gated area.
What's gonna be the gated area?
I was just curious, cause I have noticed several times that like there's a sheriff's truck that's parked in the front of the courthouse. And then on the sides, over on that side,
I've seen
but they're in
I've
actual
seen-
parking spaces, not like in the gated.
I've seen police cars from other cities in the county. They're for court evidently, and they do park on the square. They
You
don't-
know, these were Warren County.
So on that, they do not have enough parking for all of the positions that they have in the building, both county and state positions that are in the building. The designated parking lot that they have is mostly for the courts and the judges, and if you can tell that they're doing some construction on that to put fences up to create more security for the judges and different employees of the court being there. They do have some parking for the sheriff's department, and they do have a relationship with the city when it comes to overnight parking, and being able to be allowed to be in overnight parking even during the winter months, because they have changes of shift at 8 a.m. where they're changing their dispatchers and their personnel that are in the jail, and they need to have both crews on at the exact same time during a shift change.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was the few times that I've seen them, it's during prime business hours, and that's
And
kind of what
also-
drew my attention, and I'm going, you park right in front where, got all these shops and places on this side and on this side. And he's right there in the front, so, or she, I don't know, he or she. I didn't know if there was a way that we could work with them to designate a certain area, maybe on the side where they park.
Well, if we did the business patron only, then really they should be in the inside of the. There are a lot of that. Of course, sometimes those county employees are business patrons. They might be enjoying lunch. My wife and I were going to Wynn's one day, and she goes, "There's a parking spot right there in front." I said, call and that nice meal at Wynn's. But it's just because even the perception. you're getting
Sure would have been on Facebook before you sat down.
So
I think opening up when we do get Regions building, I think opening that up, as more and more people understand that it is open to be able to walk through that area, not just for the bank, and somehow signage that would say that as well. It's a public area, public walkway. You think that's gonna eventually change? It's gonna take time for people to get used to that.
I would just say, I appreciate the task force did, and I think it's, it's a good starting place. I hope it works.
Yep.
And that we don't have to go farther. But again, Christina said, I'm on the square probably every day. So, you just drive through or up, in a store or something. But I thought last month you told me they already had incentives, that the county already had incentives for, okay. So incentivizing as part of the plan, then is that an additional incentive or?
it's an incentive that if they commit to work, parking off the square, that they get some money towards like a wellness benefit off their insurance or something. I don't know the specifics of it,
They already have that in place.
but they did put that in place.
And the policy book, it isn't in the policy book yet, but it's
It's not, but that's the next step to ratchet up. You know, the worst day is Tuesday, because that's court day. Or if they have a major trial, like this past week, they've been dealing with a trial, and so it's really had an impact this week. And of course, it's,
the juror parking would make, I assumed when you said they were gonna put that in their information that it would be going to jurors too. It's probably an assumption we can make, but you know, when you get jury duty, lots of directions and you follow them usually. I mean, so I think if they're giving direction on that, that would help.
You know, I don't know since I've jury duty, but I remember having to call into an answering machine. If maybe they could reiterate that message of where to park on that answering machine.
Yeah, you have to call Friday at 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Or every day at 4, whatever.
Keeps it a little fresher maybe in their mind of where the jurors are supposed to park.
Good idea too. And I just hope people realize how important it is, as you mentioned earlier, not just to the businesses, but to all of our residents. There are a lot of residents who really want to support the businesses and just can't walk that far. I don't walk. No problem. And I'm grateful to be able to do it. But there are a lot of people.
and I know it's at different times at different parts of the day, because I literally got a complaint from somebody at 8:30 in the morning one day. And ironically, I had just come through 8 AM and I thought, I'm gonna count the number of spaces on the square today. And I don't often do that, but I did. There were 23 spaces that were open, 3 of which were ADA on the square that morning, not counting the side streets or the back parking lots. I'll just actual 23, but the complaint did say, I don't shop on the square, I don't spend time in the square, I can't find parking and whatnot. And part of it is overcoming that perception. If you're not right in front of that business, I can't shop at that business. And that's really not the case. We want to create a walkable community where you can walk and enjoy many of those businesses all at once, that it's really not that far of a distance. I'm not sure how to overcome the perception.
It's been here a long time, Ben, even before the square was torn up, at the very beginning for years. People would go down the south side, park, go inside a building there and drive over the north side and do the same thing. I mean, I gotta tell you, John, you've been here all your life too, and it's the same thing. I mean, it's just that mentality that's gonna take a long time to break that, but it can be done. I think we're off to a good start. I think what the task force, again, what Gwen said, the task force has done a great job. And I love the idea that let's start off with some good things, with some positive things. And if we have to ratchet it up, we
You have a timeline and, I mean, obviously you're gonna receive feedback from people. Do you have are you gonna review it in a month after? How soon will the signs go up? And how long before we review?
So it's my understanding that the green signs have already been ordered. Those will be going up as soon as they arrive. They take about 6 weeks to manufacture. I was gonna run this by the business patron only signs by you tonight and the downtown merchants group in the morning. Get their feedback, and if everything is good, then I will take care of the cursive and get that to AP and have him start the order for that. So that'll come up maybe a few weeks later. Those signs would become available.
gotta put this on September. Sounds like, would that be too far out? So you got 6 weeks for your signs approximately, you said. I'd give them about a month after being
We
installed.
don't need any council. In fact, because it's business patron only, not really an enforcement, it's more of a invitation. So no council action would be necessary to change any ordinances or.
You're just talking for follow.
Talking
Yeah,
for
just a
review.
follow-up, yeah, just a follow-up.
As a review.
Review.
And something
You have
that's-
good, and it isn't really necessary, but
Yeah,
I think we can't just do this and then think, okay, well, I mean, we have to follow up.
we certainly, can follow up in September, but I think a really good thing to do is to follow up again next year. Right now, we're still in construction. And there is no new normal yet. As
Right.
soon as all the back parking lots are done, we're waiting on the west side for as long as we possibly can. Probably kicking that off in mid-July, so that we have the least amount of impact for the shortest duration of time. Complete all the construction work in this construction season. It's our critical thing. We don't want one more construction season. So we don't have any normal till next year. So that's one aspect. And then the other thing is when we did do the downtown streetscape project, when the bids did come in, one of the things that our contractor wasn't really in their wheelhouse was the decorative signings, the wayfinding signs and all that type of thing. And it really became a cost concern. Can we get those to fit? And it really was going to be a contingent on how much contingency was at the end and how many change orders there were. Well, now that we're taking off the east side, we're waiting on the city hall and the vision there. We do have more wiggle room to take care of those change orders, and we anticipate bringing to you a new bid to finish off all of that wayfinding sign and all those decorative elements to the square that I think business patrons really.
That's great.
I still think though, maybe other members of the council don't agree, but still think maybe just a brief 5-minute discussion in September of what's our response, what are we hearing, that kind of stuff. And
The
then
point of this is to help people through the next year, which is yet the toughest time. We hope on the other side of this, it's not going to be an issue. You don't know that.
I don't know, there needs to be a council meeting, I mean, they can send us an email, kind of a follow, just say a follow-up by September.
I mean, we can even just have an agenda item.
In a
September
report.
to update.
Well, you could put it as something on the study committee, and then if it doesn't need to be that, when you talk about it here, you just do an email like John said, and that's fine, but somewhere along the line, it's out there that, or your report, that's exactly right.
There's one more thing that I think that I've heard several times, actually two things. I've heard a couple of times now. One is enhancing our communications on the construction efforts for the rest of this year. So we'll take that request and we'll try to better communicate with the downtown merchants. That's one thing that I think in the transition from chamber to chamber, there's just different things that they've really focused on. And when she was here, that was one area she did really well. And we just need to pick up that communication effort. We're happy to take that on. The second is because the business owners are tired and because we've scared the business owners or the business patrons away for such a long period of time, there's been a real push and a real desire to try to invite people back to the square. And so Amanda with the chamber invited me to participate in a meeting with a business called MCD. Basically, they are a marketing firm that specializes in marketing small communities. And I'm happy to pass these around and whatnot. But basically, to take that step towards better communicating, inviting people back to the square, a little bit of a marketing campaign. The square is open, we're ready to do business, and bring people back. Part of the issue is we are in a bad economy right now, and people maybe are patronizing businesses in general as much. And the more we can do to try to invite people back to the square and help people to feel like they are welcome to the square, the better off those business patrons or businesses will be. And that's something I think maybe the city could take a greater role in. Like I said, I'll pass this information around. We are going to have our communications person coming on board. And so I didn't make this a formal item for the council to consider at this time. But we can utilize some of the funds that we have for communications and better marketing, where I think serve us well and make our business owners very happy.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Unless the council has any other direction.
For all your hard work and all of staff. Moving on, to item number 2 is discussion regarding the city manager review process and evaluation for. It has been here a year now and a little late on doing this. So I mean, John, you've probably been through this the most, but maybe you can tell us how you did previously.
Yep. So this was kind of why I was thinking about it rather than going back and forth and trying to talk about it with one-offs on email. Let's just bring it as a council agenda item and talk about it so everybody's on the same page. I know Jackie put the questionnaire in front of you. So a little history on that. So when I first came on council, I'd come from school board where, so telling Ron, it was a lot more laid out process. You had a president and vice president. So those two were the ones that kind of took everything and then met with the superintendent and did their evaluation. When I came on council, it was mayhem. There really wasn't, there was kind of a form, it didn't really fit. And so we started working on it, and really up until about 3 or 4 years ago, we finally kind of got it nailed down, and Greta Southall was nice enough to take care of typing everything up and putting the form together, and we kind of worked on the questions. And this is ours as council. I mean, and really these questions, all of these were things that we felt at the time were important. So I almost, in my opinion, it's one of those things where maybe every couple of years, the council really should kind of review it as new members come on and things change a little bit. We try to keep it fairly broad, but yet somewhat pointed to things. And there's always things that come up, as you start to move through time, things change and goals and this and that. But this was kind of open for that part of it. So if there's any changes we want to discuss or make that, that we probably should do that. I don't know about this year, but I guess my recommendation is to, in the past, what's happened, Greta, since everybody kind of, one of those where everybody else steps back and she didn't move fast enough. And so it kind of landed in her purview to.
It does look like a teacher's test right here.
Right, yep. And it was.
And we know
so-
the English is gonna be
Right,
great.
exactly. And so she would compile everything and then send it out to council, then we would review it, and then we would have a closed session meeting just amongst ourselves as council, and then bring in the city manager and discuss it with them at that point, and make recommendations from there. We'd have a place to be able to do goals for the following, review what's taken place and then set new goals and that. So that's kind of the process. One thing I think, in my opinion, we kind of need to have like a central folder of pulling together information. I guess I like the thought of maybe 2 council members, like an ad hoc committee that for maybe 1 or 2 years, however we want to do it, or at least a couple of years, where those are the people that are kind of in charge, to pull it together, kind of help that process through, because otherwise it's just 6 of us fumbling through and sending the information. I think we need kind of a point person. And like I said, this is the council's, this is our own process, our own thing. So, yes, that's kind of where I was at with it, to kind of throw it out to everybody, since we had so much new, turnover and stuff. I thought very better at least have a conversation so everybody kind of understood what we've done in the past and see if there's any thoughts on changes or recommendations to do things.
Does anyone want to step up for that role of collecting all
We all
this
step
data?
back.
Yeah.
Ron, that's great because you're second year, so at least that, and
You're the numbers guy too, so.
you and John want to work
Yeah, we can
together
work
on
together
that?
on it. That way to kind of get the process started and,
Perfect.
and kind of, because we're getting there, and then it just kind of, we didn't. So I think if, to be able to pass it along to new councils, as turnover, I think that's important to at least get this process, because it isn't fair, as I have found. They wanted at a year coming up, hey, by golly, that information's got to be taken care of. We need to have that evaluation, because everybody gets really jumpy at that point. And so I think if we can do that to where we schedule it, and I know our plan was in the past was to, and you were off a little bit because of your 1-year anniversary, but was to have it done in the beginning of June. So that way it kind of falls in with the evaluation to be done, at the beginning of June, so that we roll into starting the new year. Fiscal year is kind of I don't know what your process has been in the past, I guess. But like I said, and you were so close to that timeline, it just kind of, we probably should have done a 6 month, to be honest with you. That's on, I felt bad. I kind of been thinking about that we probably needed to give you more feedback, so.
No, it's just did it. So,
Right.
not 6 months, but I mean,
Right, right.
send it out when it was
Right.
time and.
Yeah, and that's where I said, I think at some point in time, we need to make sure it kind of becomes part of the council rather than just one or two.
Yeah, and one of us remembering that. Yeah.
All right, well, Ron. Congratulations.
We need to get this back to you guys.
I would say, I mean, I don't know, what do you?
Wanna try to have it?
A couple weeks or
Well,
next week?
I was
or-
thinking
'cause I'm
June
Thinking this
17th,
next meeting,
we could do a closed session.
Well, I guess my question too is, are we kind of walking through real briefly some of the questions here, just?
yeah, we can talk
I mean,
about.
I think there's a couple of questions that I had some things that I thought maybe might be better, but I don't care about a timeline. We can do it in 2 weeks. That doesn't make a difference. I just think,
Are we gonna send it out electronically and?
I think so. That works out pretty easy. That way then everybody can be emailed back to Ron and it makes it.
No, we're gonna make Ron type all of it. Everybody handwrite it and we'll hand it to you.
In cursive.
Write it in cursive.
Yeah, because and what we've done in the past with the report was Greta would compile all the she'd put like the average for the scoring system, but then all the comments were noted. So that way everything, so everybody sees everything basically. So it's kind of how it worked out. So.
if you don't mind,
Sure.
page one's fine with me. I have no issues with that. Okay,
What was that?
Go ahead.
And not really an issue, but I just thought maybe we could add in, and maybe this can just be added with people's comments. Maybe we don't need to amend a question. But I thought when we talk about carrying the directives of the elected body as a whole, then also obviously we're all contacting city manager, regularly with suggestions and ideas. How is that managed? How is that? So we can put that in comments and not change the questions if that's what you want. Or we could add it to a question, or we can.
What specifically would you add there then?
I would just say, how is input from individual council members managed? Because again, it's not a one-person agenda. I mean, there's not. But sometimes there are good ideas that need to be shared with other council members, discussed and reviewed. And so it was my experience with Ryan, at least, that, that he would generally say, oh, that's a good idea. I'll talk to. You talk to so-and-so and I'll talk to so-and-so or whatever. Maybe that's too micro. I don't know.
You could maybe cover that in D here, right? Where it's
Okay.
just.
Yeah.
she
Yeah,
may
that's
pick
what
up
I
I
think.
on
think so too. Yeah.
individual members.
Okay,
To
sure.
do like a call out there, Gwen might work really
Yeah,
well.
that's.
Point.
That's all I have.
Anybody else on page?
Page two, I guess. Maybe it was just because it's been a little bit here too, but, I guess from number C, two C there, I said something about does he or she enforce or carry out organizational policies, I guess. I'm not sure if that enforce is the right word I'd use there, but that's just me. I think maybe, and it kind of goes along with, number D down there too. I said something about ensure that the elected body receive timely and sound advice. I guess my thought there is something about continually suggest updates and revisions as needed. That's just kind of a thought. Again, I can go either way on that, but, I guess from just knowing Ben a little bit too, it's more, we make the decisions, but he's the one that carries that down to the staff and stuff, but I guess I don't know how we.
I'm gonna take out enforce and carry out and just put implement.
Organizational policies. And then for D, is there something there that we could say? Continually suggest updates and revisions as needed. I mean, I think that's what Ben does. He usually tells us, staff tells him and he carries it forward.
Down again, I'm sorry.
Continually suggest updates and revisions as needed.
We're on just SD completely or?
No, somewhere, okay, so, and ensure the elected body receive timely and sound advice. I guess I would take out receive timely and sound advice and just say continually suggest updates and revisions as needed.
Take the last part of that sentence out after body.
I would just see receive timely and sound advice. I think just to receive timely and
That
sound
the elected
advice and that, yeah,
Body is continually updated.
well,
So,
that the elected body, I guess, gets updates, continual updates and revisions as needed, in our policy initiatives, I guess. I don't, something along that line. I didn't really send out the whole thing. I just filled in that a little bit.
So it would say, basically, it would say ensure that the elected body receives suggested updates as needed.
Revision, updates and revisions needed. Information evaluating policy initiatives. I think you can leave that last in. And then, E, I think we kind of know, but does he or she have the respect and confidence of the elected body, employees, and community and government official? I just had a note here. It says a little hard to know, especially if someone is marginal. I mean, I can see where sometimes employees won't say much in certain cases. And I don't see anybody going on go out on a limb in certain areas if they had an issue. So I don't know about the respect and confidence. I think somehow we say something and I'd like to kind of work in the concept of Ben's pointed out as servant leader, somebody that, you know, listens to the staff, elected body and employees and somehow works that out. Again, I just throwing some things out here.
Like that question because I think we know, I mean, I know, and sorry, Ben, this has got to be so awkward. I know that he respects and has confidence in all of us. And then I get that feedback from like directors. I don't think that's getting a little down into the weeds of, you know, all positions, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I think,
Again, I'm not.
I agree with the mayor. I think I kind of like the question too. I mean, I
Okay.
think it kind of is broad, you know, I mean, that's the other thing we gotta kind of remember. These are kind of big picture. Broad.
And we all may say something different. I mean,
Right.
To use the scoring system, and then if you want to clarify and dial down, that's why you have the comments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't comment on every budget. Sometimes it's
Right.
a number and. you have no
Yeah,
comment.
yeah.
Sometimes you have comments and sometimes not.
Or does he or she articulate a vision that I had to work to support the organization to perform and consistent with the elected body's policy direction rather than motivates, I guess. But again, that's just a word change. It's no big deal.
So instead of motivates, you want support.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I almost.
I
think
like
it's
the-
Motivates.
Yeah, if you don't have motivation, then.
Yeah, because the whole idea is the city manager taking that vision or have the vision to be able to get the staff, organization to do what we're asking as a council. So
Okay.
I do
I
think
guess
that,
I took the organization. Okay, yeah.
yeah, I think that,
You're right. Okay. All I had really from everybody. I don't know if anybody has any change.
anybody else under communication, page 3?
Oh, I did have. I'm on 3.
4?
I guess the other thing is somewhere in there too, maybe it's a comment like Josh said, but somewhere along the line in 4A, is the he or she willing to work with those that need guidance? In other words, are they willing to mentor or somehow change behavior if it's not corresponding to what the policy in our city policy is? I mean, sometimes that becomes a stumbling block for some people, and I'm just kind of curious if that's something we want to.
I think that's E. That's kind of, so work plans. So work plans are kind of those, they do an evaluation or a review with the staff member and suggest things to be able to improve on that. So I think, and maybe it's not worded the way, you know, where you would catch it, but that's what you're asking for is kind of what we had in
That's what
E.
you guys did with.
Yeah, that was the intent of the E was, is the city manager working well with staff? You know,
Okay.
one, we want them to hire the best they can, but if they're not, if they need help, are they doing this?
Yeah, in order.
Are they doing those things to try to improve?
Okay.
And then if nothing's working, then what do you do?
Sure, yeah.
So they're moving along.
Yep. Okay. Good.
I had a couple for page 5, if nobody else had any. So I guess my question is, does the city manager actually prepare the budget or is that accounting?
That's, well, it's It's under their purview.
Yes.
So ultimately, so we don't evaluate anybody else. We don't evaluate anybody else. We only evaluate the city manager, and that's our responsibility. So essentially, yeah, if the person below him's not doing, him or her is not doing their job, then that would reflect in his or her. You know, so it is, yeah, while directly, maybe not, he's working with staff to do that, but it's ultimately on his or her shoulders. So, yeah.
Yeah, in the way the questions are drawn or you know, it just makes it seem like he is the one directly creating those, where he may not be the one directly creating them.
I think ultimately, like what John's saying, is this is our one opportunity to directly evaluate that portion of it, even though because we can't directly evaluate those employees, so. That staff, and so ultimately falls on the manager's shoulders.
Yep.
So it does feel weird, because yeah, you're like one level removed, but
If the manager's not doing their job,
Yeah,
to make sure that staff is doing their job, then that's on them, you know, and so
I
that's.
just wanted to make sure that like, I know like when Ryan was in office, I think he had a lot more hands in things. And you know, then seems to kind of let department heads do their thing.
Sure.
And so then this was written back then, so I just want to make sure that we're not evaluating Ben based on
Ryan.
previous, you know, city managers involved.
I think that's where comments can come into play too.
Right.
Josh made that comment earlier too. I think that's where we can write in there a comment. If it needs to be a little lengthy or something, we can make it work. I really do think that's where you want to use comments too.
I thought about that too, Christina. I really wanted to take a look at it to make sure it wasn't kind of written towards strengths and weaknesses. In my opinion, I reviewed it from, with an open.
Right.
Thinking that maybe I would find more of that, and I just don't see it. I think it's.
We tried to write it so it wasn't, so I mean, that's.
Well, yeah, you
the first thing-
It's hard.
When I read it, yeah, when we got it sent to us, that was the first thing I read was, my thought too was, is this written specifically for?
Sometimes you can write an evaluation or a survey the way you
Right.
want the answers to
Right.
come out.
Right. Surveys.
You had another, oh, okay, that was the only one, okay.
I think it's great. I think if we work through this our first time too, it'll give us an opportunity to see if we can change anything, but I think it is written really well.
John, thank you for your.
Good work.
Yeah, no. One of our most important things right here, not only hiring the city manager, but then to give them a greater, a good solid evaluation every year. That's one of our main jobs. So I think this is an important thing, so.
John, you'd mentioned that you guys had kind of designed this originally to be a June item, right, to match up with July 1 less. Do we need to move on this and just have it you in a week so that you guys can have it to Ron?
Yeah.
So that we can have it as a study session item for the next meeting?
I would like that. I think that'd be the best thing to do.
Good with that, but
Just take what we got here and send that in.
Well, I think,
Send it out.
you know what, I'll make the adjustments to it, the changes that we've talked about tonight, and then just send it out to everybody.
Great.
So that we got it, and then, yeah, if you can just get it back, I'll take it to Ron would Monday be all right? Everybody had everything done in a week?
absolutely.
Then June 17th we'll do.
Yeah,
a
put it
session
on a
for
closed
Does
session.
that give you enough time too, since you're leaving for DC?
Yeah, I'll make it.
You had so much reading going back?
Yeah, well, I got two granddaughters sitting right out there.
That's gonna be even more fun.
That is.
I won't scold you too bad. if you're
All
short
right.
or so.
Don will send it out, Ronald.
Yep.
All right.
Perfect.
Great. Next item is discussion regarding upcoming agenda items from within the regular June 5th, 2023 city council meeting at 7 p.m.
I just have a question though. Do we know where we are with Mid-American Energy on the alleys? Can we get a quick update on that?
Sorry, so they have gone through and they completed their engineering. They're going through their financial review and getting approval internally, their corporate approval to be able to pull the trigger on this project. Community development staff is keeping the pressure on. We talked about that a little bit this morning. and made the invitation that it would be a good idea if maybe we said our mayor and council would be very interested in setting up a meeting with Mid-American. We don't have a date. And we're trying to closer on a date when their project will kick off. That will create enough pressure that it will analyze that next period, and then we'll start having a date and knowing when our construction will begin.
Bob Lester, who was with Mid-American Energy for a number of years, saw him this week, and he said he'd be glad to get phone calls if that would help. Well, I don't know if Charlie knows Bob or not.
And he was at a meeting that I presented to the People's Bank Breakfast and came right up to me afterwards and already indicated that he'd make it.
Okay, perfect.
Should do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it would really be nice if we could get everything open
Yeah.
before the end of July instead of into mid-August. And I realize that's a tall order, but I think we have to try.
Yeah, we're keeping the pressure on, there's no doubt.
Okay. The only other thing I would add, is maybe, we talked about meeting with county supervisors and meeting and also school board. Kind of get an idea somewhere in the next meeting or so where we're gonna, when we think we. So that'd be the only thing.
All right, any other items? If not, take a break until 7 p.m.
Kind of
2023, city council, would you please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Becky, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Beach. Here.
Present.
Colby.
Here.
Richardson.
Present.
Schroeder. Present. Brave.
Here.
Mayor Erickson.
Present. Item number 4 on the agenda this evening is a recognition of service award for Becky Lane. That's off script here, is Becky has been running the mayor's youth council for quite some time and has absolutely been phenomenal. And even with 24 hours last days within her last day, she is still sending out text messages and making sure we're ready for our event later this month. So Becky, we have a resolution for you and then we'll have you come forward. Whereas Becky Lane is retiring effective June 6, 2023 from the position of recreational coordinator with the city of Indianola after nearly 16 years of service. And whereas the recreational coordinator position is instrumental in improving the quality of life for residents and visitors of all age, including the operations of the Indianola Activity Center, the Zone After School Program, Mayor's Youth Council, and hundreds of other programs. And whereas Becky fearlessly and tirelessly fulfilled her duties as recreational coordinator, as well as other positions with the city and Indianola Parks and Recs Department in service to the Indianola community. And whereas the entire community of Indianola greatly appreciates the work and individual sacrifice put forth by Becky in fulfillment of those duties. And whereas the elected and appointed officials and the staff of the city of Indianola will greatly miss her leadership and love of the community. Now therefore be it resolved by the elected and appointed body of the city of Indianola, Iowa, that Becky Lane and her nearly 16 years of dedicated service to the Indianola community are hereby recognized and appreciated. And be it further resolved, all citizens of Indianola, Iowa are urged to recognize the distinction that Becky's efforts have brought to our community. Encourage all citizens to applaud and celebrate this occasion and to participate in upcoming celebrations. In witness, therefore, of I on to set my hand and have caused the seal of the city of Indianola, Iowa to be affixed this 5th day of June, 2023. Congratulations. And then Doug, you gotta get in here for a picture. Doug,
Doug's like,
You've been around here. Dougie. Wait, it's gotta be in the middle now. Now you get a hold of it.
It's been a Jackie, let me go.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Becky.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on any matter can come forward to the lectern and state their name and address for the record. Cindy Johnson, I have a form from you. She is located at 09 North 16th and she runs Indianola Performance Center. She wants to talk about the square parking.
Cindy Johnson, 309. 4 years. For years, we've been dealing with parking. 2019, May of 2019, demolition started. My daughter graduated from high school. My daughter has entered college, graduated college, and nothing's happened. We are exhausted business owners on the square. At the very beginning, we didn't know who to turn to, so we went to the county and talked to county supervisors, and they said, we can't tell our construction workers where to park. It's a city issue. It's city street. We go to the city, talk to Ryan Waller. It's a county issue. It's county employees. We can't tell them where to park. We complained, posted pictures on Facebook. We complained, we called, we emailed, and we are still right where we were 4 years ago. Now, I am fortunate, I have a window to the square at the old Harrison's building, and I get to watch the parking every day. And you can tell it's court day. It's a quiet day today. I asked my clients, did you have any parking spot? No, I got one today. My oldest client's 91 years old. There's one handicap spot right around the corner to the north. If that's occupied, he doesn't really have much of an option. In fact, the other day, Thursday is his session day. And it was raining, it was pouring rain when I got to work about 5:45. So I parked right across from my building. And I waited for him to come outside. His session time is 11:30. And I waited for him to come outside. I stood outside, keys in hand. And my wife happened to be there. I said, when Jack gets here, take my keys, take my truck, and find another spot, and we'll give that to Jack, so he doesn't have to walk very far. I flagged him down, we did that. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had a place to park. It was jury selection day. Now, some of the things you've proposed are great. Signage is wonderful, but nothing is enforceable. You're banking on the good graces and the good values of people to do what's right. And that's not going to happen. Every morning at 7 o'clock, the north side, the northeast corner of the inside of the square is filled up like that with county employees. In fact, if you really want to watch what's going on, it's kind of a circus up there. People park backwards in spots for angled parking. They run through the stop signs. They park over lines so we can only have one person in two parallel. We have, I think it was mentioned tonight, we have sheriff deputies, pickups, trucks, undercover cars that will park for 8 hours right across from the studio. We have Carlisle police, Norwalk police, Indianola police cars. They must be there for court dates. They park right in front. We have no options left. We are exhausted. I had a client today, first time I've actually lost money because she couldn't find a parking place, and she emailed you. She had a knee replacement in December. And she drove around 3 or 4 times and couldn't find a spot. And if she found a spot 2 or 3 blocks away, she would have been late to her session, but she was on time actually. Everything you propose is a great idea, but it's not enforceable. Those business parking for patrons only, that's nice. It's not gonna happen. If I'm late for court, I'm gonna park the first place I can find. Doesn't matter if it says business parking for business patrons only. It doesn't matter. Because nothing's enforceable. You know, it's interesting. In 4 years, there hasn't been one city employee who's come by my studio and said, what do you think about the parking? What concerns do you have? Not one. Yeah, you talk about talking with business owners. I have anywhere from 15 to 18 sessions a day. And my clients are trying to find a place to park. And every day it's the same conversation. Find a place to park. Now I drove around 3 times and I'm back here in a lot. Place over there. Okay. So this is a problem that's not just happened. It's a 4-year-old problem that nobody is taking responsibility for because you don't have any enforceable actions. The police can't be the police. They can't go around and see whose car is parked where and say, hey, you need to move. That 3-hour parking limit that we used to have, some business owner, 1 or 2 on the square complained they didn't like it. So what do? You get rid of it. There's 1 or 2 business owners didn't want it. That's not a majority. So I don't know what the option, I don't know what the answer is. You know, even if you gave each business owner one parking spot. And it said parking for IPC clients only 6 AM to 6 PM, Monday through Friday. And somebody parks there that's not a client of mine. What do? I call up to the police station and go, hey, somebody's in my parking spot. And they're gonna go, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. Directing people to parking lots is great. But reality is people are gonna park where they see that first parking spot, no matter whose business they're in front of. And the county employees are there for the duration of the day. It's just reality. So your signs might work. Suggestions might work. But we gotta talk reality because we are exhausted trying to find places to park. And the problem began in the very beginning with Streetscape, when you told us as a council that you were going from 160 parking spaces, however you counted them, down to 130. Okay, now what do? Now we hear that a department of the county is taking over the annex across on the west side of the square with 20 to 30 employees coming to the square. That's not counting their clients. Where are they going to park? You created an issue you can't solve. It is unsolvable. And we are exhausted. And my older clients, my hips replaced, my knee replaced clients, my 91-year-olds, my 89-year-olds, they almost are afraid to come to the square because of the situation that has been happening. I would love to sit down, but I have no options for you because nothing is enforceable. Leaders, you want to talk about bringing people to the square, encouraging them to come? Oh, we're going to try to get here. Parking is prime. And if I'm smart enough, run out every 3 or 4 hours and plug the meter and still stay there for 8 hours. If you want to turn people away, put meters on the square. But you've got to find an option. Or you will lose businesses on the square. Which is the exact opposite of why you did Streetscape. So I hesitate coming up here and speaking because it doesn't do any good. Because you have no options. We can complain all we want. I can hear my clients complain. It's the same conversation every day. Comes down to it. There's nothing you can do. That's going to be a permanent solution. Because you created an unsolvable.
Cindy. Moving on to item number 6.
We received, I just want to make note of this. We received an email from Sue Wilson about, I think this needs to be said in my opinion, because it was something good for our staff. That she had said that the police department and fire department worked with emergency management people to put together some emergency management training for the school staff, and she sent an email to us because she couldn't be here that you just wanted to thank Jay Hackett, Officer Jay Hackett, the school resource officer, for being able to pull that together. And I think that needs to be noted.
I did ask Ben if he could have Jay come to a council meeting and see if we can formally thank him. So
Yeah. Yep. And I also did get an email from former council member Greta Saltho, who's also a teacher, well, what I did too, that somebody needs to get bonuses.
Yeah, there you go.
Such a good job.
And it was a challenge to deal with teachers.
Yes, on the end of the school year. But anyway, they did a great job. So I just thought that it should be noted. record, so. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
No, thank you. Are there any items that need to be pulled from the consent agenda? All right, so I need a first and second motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
And Ben, any items to highlight here?
In the consent agenda, we're going to be setting some public hearings. The first is for the potential sale of 701 West Boston. Of several hearings with regard to complaints filed on tobacco sales within our community. We have several liquor licenses that are on the consent agenda, as well as an update to the council policy folder regarding banners. We have a grant application in support for workforce housing tax credit benefit application at 1602 East Second Avenue over by the high school. Third consideration of ordinance regarding the sidewalk use regulations on the square. Second consideration, ordinance amending the city code to allow for the creation of the Indianola Wellness Campus Board of Trustees. And we had Civil Service Commission list of applicants for the firefighter positions, as well as urban revitalization district.
I have a senior moment here. I do need to,
I was waiting.
yeah, I'm sorry about that. I have to pull the claims. Can we amend your motion?
Yes.
Pull the claims.
Well,
Okay, so we will pull claims. So item B, and then can I get a first and second motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of B, approval of
Already
claims?
got it.
we already got it.
Oh, you got it.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
perfect.
amended.
So now we can just do any questions for Ben. You got me all back.
got
Steve, excited to go on vacation, so I don't blame him. All right, Jackie,
Councilmember Parker,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Schroeder, Reed,
Aye.
Beach,
great. I need a first and second motion on item B, approval of claims.
Second.
Yes. All right, Jackie,
Councilmember Richardson,
Abstain.
Schroeder. Reed,
Aye.
Beach, Parker,
Aye.
Aye.
you know, into item number 7, council reports. I need a first and second motion to receive and file the April 2023 treasurer's report. Discussion. None, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Item B, we need a first and second motion to receive and file the April 2023 EMS billing activity report.
Moved. Second.
Questions or discussion? And he's waiting for you. Run.
Nothing.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Item C is the SERPTA report from Council Member Steve Richardson.
Thank you. We met on May 18th, or yeah, it was May 18th, it was after the last council meeting in May. We approved a payment management software system that updates on that. Voted on fiscal year 2024 unified plan. I think probably the biggest thing that came out of this meeting, in my opinion, was the planning grants available through the federal highway programs. It provides for resilience planning, pre-design, design, and disruption scenarios. So one of the questions I asked of the folks at SERPTA was, could this be something that we could use? There's about $300 million available here. And something we could use for disaster transportation. So for instance, if we had a tornado that took out part of Indianola, could we reroute them through one of these areas that maybe we've done some design and planning for and paving for? So like, for instance, 17th Street, some of the other areas around the community that we could use for disaster in case of a disaster like tornadoes or something. And so I sent that information to Ben, I think to Charlie and AP, but, and I think to Doug as well. But, and I don't think I sent it to Chief Sheehan. I apologize for that if I didn't, but I really do think that we need to look into this and see if there's some funds available that maybe we can tap into to provide some disaster roadway systems, perhaps, maybe something along that line that would allow us to provide some alternate routes in case part of the community is so some kind of disaster. So that would be my report.
Can I get a first and second motion on the appointment of Jake Weiss to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1st, 2027?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
Ad hoc committee went through this. I believe it was unanimous on that. So
Excellent application. I think that this is a great person to bring a lot to planning and zoning. Jackie?
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Aye.
Peach. Aye. Parker,
Aye.
Colby.
Aye.
Aye.
We'll welcome aboard, Jake Weiss. Moving on to item 8, the mayor's report. It's been kind of a busy past couple weeks. We had the American Legion 165 parade and then the Junior Edwards statue unveiling on Memorial Day. And I know several were in attendance, Steve, Kevin, Quinn, I don't know if you were there, but several were in attendance from the city. And thank you to Captain James. I saw him out there directing traffic too. It was a great event, very well attended. Representative Brooke Bowden was there, as well as Representative Miller Meeks, who actually helped in the event of a man who unfortunately passed out, but was doing very well. I got an update from his daughter. He was just dehydrated and sent home. We have the True Bank Disc Golf Challenge coming.
Back 1 second up.
Yeah.
Todd Wood was there. You want to mention him?
Todd Wood is descendant of Junior Edward. It was Steve, I'll let you if you want to.
He's
It was just a great event.
retired colonel in the Army. He now teaches at Fort Leavenworth at their academies they have for senior NCOs. But I thought very moving and emotional. Thank you to the city and all the 4 recognizing his uncle and the statue that they put forth on American Legion 165.
Really great event. A number of ribbon cuttings. The chamber has been busy. Rouse's Indianola IV, Drees Chiropractic. There's several more that I'm leaving off there, but coming up 24th, Ridiculous Days on the Square. And then as well as we had a caravan in town today. If you go down to 113 West or East Salem, which is where Roots is located, you'll see now there is a plaque and signage for Jefferson Highway. Ironically, I did not know that Indianola is one of the only cities that has a Jefferson Way dedicated. So it makes us an interesting little fact. And they had a caravan come through today and we did a dedication and declaration. It was very well received, and there's actually 2 in town and then 1 just north of town. So those got placed out, and I think I'd be remiss if I did not say that if you're gonna be frequenting our aquatic center, to please put on sunscreen at home, and then at least wait 15 to 20 minutes before you get in. It is not a problem that is just happening in Indianola. The state of Iowa actually came across quite a few cities who had to close down their pools. A lot of it from clouding. So we are not special in having this problem, and we'll continue to fight it. We just all have to do our part. Anything else on that, Doug? Take a shower. Get the oils off of your body. It will really help. All right, that's all I have. We will move on to public consideration and old business is South K Street paving project. I need a first and second motion on preliminary resolution for the construction of street, curb and gutter, storm sewer, shared use path, and other public improvements for South K paving project in the city of Indianola, state of Iowa. Yeah,
Second.
discussion.
So I have a question. Do we know the cost is to IMU for their portion of the construction?
Not yet.
You guys.
Dave Mueller with Snyder and Associates. The IMU portion of the project, they are still working on that side. Ron, we have a coordination meeting on Friday. They haven't finished the design, so they don't have to.
This is a preliminary too. We all have down the road, we have to set all the assessments and everything too, and we'll know that information particularly, so. This is just a preliminary process we have to.
You guys started meeting with like property owners, landowners?
This gets us to that next step. So the next,
Okay.
Our next
So your next
resolution
item-
will be,
we need to get through your next item and get a preliminary report from that work, and then we can start meeting.
all right,
Man, maybe I'm sure I'm the only one here, but man, I'm really struggling with the $8 million price tag of this project. I'm not saying that we don't need to get rid of our gravel roads within the town, but I'm personally just struggling with the cost of the project and where we could use those funds. I mean, I know the resolution passed in 2021 for the borrowing of the 6.8 million. And I believe it has to be designated for that K Street project if I remember right, but that's just where personally I'm standing with the project.
I mean, it has gone up quite a bit. Original.
For some reason I had like 5 something
That's what I was thinking. It
in
was
my
like
head, but
5.4, I think originally.
Lots happened since 2000.
yes, certainly.
And that's also a project cost, so it includes all the design, the right of way, more than just the construction.
have we captured all possible grant funding, federal and state level?
We've made a couple different applications for member-directed funds. Back in 2020 or 2021, I think we had some member-directed funds, and then another round when we looked at the ARA money, but that's for infrastructure, not for paving. So that's why we used that money for Boston instead of K Street. There isn't as much utility work on K Street, so it wasn't eligible for those. So we advanced one project, it all kind of comes from the same infrastructure spending pie. That's a fair budgetary term. It is eligible for STP funds, which is the Surface Transportation Program. And we're borrowing ahead on that program to build the Hillcrest project this year and next year. So we're kind of tapping that source out on that project. But we'll continue to look for funding opportunities. I know as Steve pointed out, they continue to go through the rulemaking process on some of the infrastructure funding, different programs. And I think that resiliency fund is probably something to look at.
Yeah, it wouldn't be for this, since we're this far along, I don't think it would be eligible for this project to be eligible for that, but other projects that we could do that could identify emergency routes in case of a evacuation or whatever, I think that might be something we really, really do look at. And Ron, I understand where you're at too. So I mean, I get it, but I also know that city of our size with a lot of, I don't know how many miles of unpaved streets we have in the city, but we need to provide the transportation area for those folks that we've designed and we've built and created in those areas that we've annexed down in that part of the community, and also for IMU water facility. And we just need to make sure that we do the right thing here in the long term. So
No, there'll be a solar plant.
yeah. A lot of, and the dog park. I mean, we've got things there that we've got to. Okay with it. I don't like the cost. I don't like the cost, but it's gotta be done.
How many miles is that road?
South K Street, it's over a mile. It's about 6,800 feet
17.
Are we paving past 17th or just 270
to the city limits.
to the city limits? Okay.
Goes that past the dog park?
at the dog park.
Right to the dog park.
How's that to the dog park?
And the random says 2,800 plus feet existing gravel road.
Any other question? Jackie?
Councilmember Ray?
Aye.
Page?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Colby?
No.
Richardson?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Now I need a first and second motion on a resolution.
I stepped down. Is this about the,
Preliminary.
okay.
Yep.
Good, Silly.
All right. See, I'm not the only one.
We all have that.
Yeah.
I need a first and second motion on a resolution appointing 3-member evaluation committee for the South K Street Special Assessment Project. We need to name those 3 because our motion needs to include those. So those individuals that previously sat on the board, I had it up and then I did away with it. Were Gary Giaffretti, Barb McMurray, and Misty Soldwich. They most recently did the one of Iowa. So in speaking with Ben, we determined, since they're familiar with our process and they've recently worked through it, it would be appropriate to leave those 3. But willing to hear if anyone else has an opinion.
The motion that we appoint those 3 members to the special member evaluation.
Right, could you repeat the 3 again?
Misty Soldwich, Barb McMurray, and Gary Giaffretti.
We have 2 realtors and one appraiser.
I thought the Iowa process was smooth.
That,
I have 0 experience in that committee, so I mean, if you guys are comfortable with it.
What exactly do they?
They will review the assessment process to determine assessments appropriately. So then we'll give some recommendations through that with Snyder.
Basically, they work toward the fair market value. That's what they're doing.
Once the construction's complete.
I think it's prior, right? Your assessment.
Or is it after?
No, the council valuation is the value of the property after the project. Okay,
Yeah, so it is okay.
and that's always confusing because when you buy right away, you have to, by code, you have to buy right away at the incorrect, the appraised price at its current condition. But then that's why you set a council valuation that's different, that's in post improvement condition. So it's kind of a special situation just for the assessment process.
So they get taxed on what? Or not taxed, sorry,
You're not
assessed,
yeah, you're not taxed. And the only,
assessed on the,
right, and the council valuation is used to set a ceiling on the assessment. It's not really, they don't get taxed on that amount. That's a separate situation that the county does that. You can't assess more than 25% of the council valuation. So it sets a ceiling of the maximum assessment based on.
is that maximum amount per property then,
Per
correct?
property.
Not as a whole.
Per property.
That maximum property generally is higher than what the actual costs end up being. Am I right on that generally? Can be.
Generally speaking,
Yes.
the assessment is under that value, but
Generally speaking.
for agricultural uses, sometimes it's not.
Or else they've got to go through this.
I just asked because there's a few people that live on that road. That their houses sit clear back and aren't even close. So it's like literally like a ditch. that They're gonna be getting. That's on, so they're.
Yeah. This will be a process.
So with the state capping out assessments, is this going to have any on how much you can assess on property? Kind of changing that property tax structure? That's going to affect this process, or is this completely different?
These are taxes at all. It's just used to calculate the maximum.
Perfect.
The
Okay,
maximum assessment that the property can bear.
thank you.
Get a second on this one.
I seconded, but I think we were talking.
Okay.
If I can, sorry, I can add. We also adopt a land procurement policy during the last council meeting. where you set out values for what the low fair market value will be. And then today, I know there was some emails exchanged with Dave and Maria Promo with Olives and Company, where the way the resolution is presented to you today for the valuation panel is they are supposed to get us a written report, which is due by September 4th. And then that written report will be submitted to council on September 18th. With that being said, emails exchanged today was if we can move that deadline to August 1st. And
Yeah, we're requesting the committee can possibly get that done a month earlier, then we can have more time on this. We can't meet with the property owners until that work is done. Work on September 4th. We'll have to do a lot of work in a very short period of time, and we want to provide the property owners opportunity to think it through and have some time to digest all of it.
so the only change that I'm going to request is in the resolution to change the date from September 4th to August 1st.
I mean, I think we could ask the committee to get it done by the 4th, but they have to have it done by September.
Yeah,
Can we do that?
well, if it's in the resolution, I would say that August 1st is where we would put it in the
September.
Okay, so I'm gonna reread this. So we have a resolution of member valuation committee for the South K Street Special Assessment Project that 3 committee members will be Gary Gianfretti, Barb McNerney, and Misty Soldridge, with the verbiage changed to August 1st to have their work completed back by. All right, so first and a second.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so we got Stephen Glenn. All right, Jackie.
Member Schroeder.
Aye.
Bates.
Aye.
Beach.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Selby.
Aye.
Richardson.
I need a first and second motion on the resolution approving a modification to the Somerset Plan Unit Development, UD. I'm sorry, Summer Crest Plan Unit Development. Like, nobody wants to second or pass my motion because I said it wrong.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, good evening. Just give you a quick background in this one. This PUD modification is to amend the minimum side yard setbacks for the single family residential lots located adjacent to the east and west boundary of this PUD. Currently, the setback requirement is 8 foot for a total setback of 16 feet between any 2 structures. The applicant does propose to lower that down to 6 feet, requiring a total setback of 12 feet between any 2 structures.
This is a Horton property.
Yep. So this is the DR property that's currently having some houses being built on it. So this shows the subdivision plat here on the screen. North is actually facing to the right side of the screen, just to give you some wayfinding there. And then the lots that are highlighted are the lots that will be affected by this change. I know the applicant's online here as well too, and I'll just give you some information from what they told us in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, but we allow them an opportunity to build some more ranch homes on this lot rather than their 2-story units that they're looking at, and that's mainly why they are requesting this. But again, if you have any questions of the applicant, they are on Zoom, and if you have any questions of me, I'd be.
Well, let's go back to that map. So that map really shows the lots as they are, is that correct?
Yeah, so this, what it does show, I mean, this isn't how it's developed right now. This is split into 2 phases. Where Scenic Valley is, and then everything to the left side of the screen, which is south. That's currently developed. Everything on the north side, which is the right side of the screen, has yet to be developed.
Right. Okay, so, but the lots are already platted. That's the plat that was accepted, and
Preliminary plat has been approved for this whole concept. The only lots that have been final platted are the ones that are on the left side there below Scenic Valley.
They're not gonna change anything with the
No,
size.
I don't
They're gonna
expect that, yeah.
get closer.
So, and just some background, just so you're aware, the only reason those weren't final platted is because the way sewer falls through there, it falls off to the north. And the area just north of here hasn't been fully completed yet, so they couldn't connect sanitary sewer until that piece of ground was completed.
Josh, you have anything to add from P and Z around this one?
We're not adding any more lots. I don't see why you wouldn't. At this point, we've already established it to development, like build more ranches.
The parcel owners to the west have any issues? They were all notified and I'm trying to recall, I don't think we had too many planning and zoning, maybe just some to listen to it, but we didn't really get too much feedback from any of the property owners on this. But yeah, everybody within 200 feet was notified about it.
It's not gonna change your density on paper, but it's not gonna change it reality.
For the people on the east side then either, I take it.
Alright. Okay, Jackie?
Councilmember Dolly.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Schroeder.
No.
Reed.
Aye.
Teach.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Moving on to new business, I need a first and second motion on a first consideration of an ordinance amending the city or the code of ordinances of the city of Indianola, Iowa by amending section 69 and regarding snow emergency applicability in the downtown square. Well, I need a first and second first, I guess.
So
Second.
Thank you. Charlie.
usually I start without getting them on second first, so appreciate that. Really quick, some background on this. So the Downtown Square Commission, after one of the last snowfalls of the year, requested that our Public Works Department give them a presentation on how Public Works goes about doing snow removal in the square. There was some back and forth discussion at that point in time, and they asked us to take a look at the applicability with the snow ordinance in the downtown and the amount of time that Public Works Department was being given to remove snow in the square. With the overnight parking restrictions, typically our Public Works Department was waiting from that 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. window to remove snow. And there was just some issues, I think, on timing on that. So our Downtown Square Commission asked, hey, can we look at extending that and giving our Public Works Department a little bit more time? We made a presentation to them at their April 18th meeting about changing some of this and some of the changes that we see here. They did ask us to reach out to some of those business owners on the square that are open past 10 p.m. at night. We did reach out to all those businesses and we got a few to respond, and I know I included those emails in the packet from those business owners. But what this ordinance does is it does modify the code to allow for parking on the square between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. during snow emergency. This would allow Public Works Department a 9-hour window overnight, essentially between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. to remove snow from the square during snow events. It also does allow the city manager some discretion to implement a snow emergency during a determined time period on the square between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. We did add that in just, if we have a 24-inch snowstorm, for example, and we really need to get in there to get the snow out of there, it does allow us some discretion to then implement that emergency and get in there and get that snow out at a good, decent time. And then it does modify the defined streets mainly to include all of the 4 sides of the square. And then, as I always call them, all the fingers coming off the square. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the changes or the process we used on this.
Would this apply to the overnight parking of the employees for the courthouse?
So I think that's one of the things that we've done with the change that we made on that we would just have to work with them. So when our Public Works Department does get in there, it's just that communication with the Sheriff's Department to let them know, hey, we're going to be in this area at this time. We're going to need your cars out of there. And maybe they're just kind of playing a little kind of catch around the square and kind of moving as we're moving along there. So I know during the presentation to the Downtown Square Commission, I know our Public Works Department noted that, Fusion Fitness, for example, is a 24-hour business and they're always trying to get their customers to move when they're removing snow, and they just will go in there and kind of, hey, if you can move your cars, that'd be really helpful now. And they've always kind of used that. So I don't think they're really looking to get people towed off the square necessarily. They're trying to work with.
That was going to be my next question. Is this going to be a ticketable tow full offense that, that there are ones that are open past 10?
I didn't want to speak on behalf of the police department or Public Works on this one necessarily, but it's my understanding that we do what we can to work with those people. But yes, technically it would be a ticketable offense if future administrations wanted to do so.
What would we be doing as a city then to make sure that patrons on the square know that during that specific ordinance that there's?
So you're talking between the time window that we're implementing. So what we've always done is and the code requires us to do this, is to use any means necessary between social media, news media, things like that to get the word out. I know the police department's always sending emails out when that goes into effect. We'll work with the chamber, I think, to kind of get that messaging out to the business owners and all of that stuff. So the code requires that we do that right now. I think we'll continue.
I'm not mistaken with the county situation, the overnight parking, we had talked to them, I mean, when they asked us for that, we told them that this had to be dealt with, and they assured us that there wouldn't be no issues like this.
And I'm looking over to Ben really quick too, because I know you were more part of that than I was, I think, but I believe that.
We gave that special dispensation for them, that they said that they would make sure that during an emergency situation with snow, that they were gonna make sure there was no vehicles there, so, yeah. Otherwise, I'll go back and review that. I'll park there tonight, so either yes or no, you got your choice.
Point of concern anyway, so.
Jackie?
Councilmember Dalby?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
Schroeder?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
I need a first and second motion on a first consideration of an ordinance amending the code of ordinances of the city of Indianola, Iowa by amending chapter 163 abandoned or unsafe buildings.
Move. Second.
Hi, I'm still here. This was something that was recommended by the city attorney on an issue that they dealt with in another city. We have used Iowa Code Section 657A in the past to acquire abandoned buildings. 701 West Boston property that we're currently working on, that was one of them, for example. So it was the city attorney's recommendation that the city is to continue to use this code section. We need to be more clear in our abandoned and unsafe building ordinance that we do intend to use that. So really what this does is it adds a section to the code that the city hereby adopts by reference, section 657A.1 through 657A.10 of the Code of Iowa. So a pretty simple amendment, but just solidifies that the city does intend to continue attempt to use this code section where we. So any questions on that? Be happy.
Right, Jackie?
Councilmember Schroeder?
Aye.
Ray?
Aye.
Beach?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Dalby?
Aye.
Richardson?
Right, we need a first and second motion on a resolution approving a plat of survey for Chad Daniels on behalf of the Yoder Family Trust for property directly east of 0533 110th Avenue.
Move.
Second.
Chad Daniels has submitted a plat survey request on behalf of Blake Reynolds and the Yoder Family Revocable Trust. The subject property is currently vacant and is used for row crop production, and there is some open space in there as well. The proposed split would create parcel D, which is about a 5-acre parcel. The proposed split is for the purpose of sale and future industrial business expansion to a current industrial business that is in place on there. The request was first heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission on May 9th. They did defer a decision on that to May 23rd. Screen here shows what we're looking at, and on the left-hand side of the screen there is where 110th or Y Street inside the city. When you get outside the city, it turns into 110th. That parcel there that fronts that road, and then parcel D is to the rear of that. And this here shows just on the right-hand side what the aerial photo looks like. So you can see the business there at the northwest corner of that property. And then if you can just imagine a pretty similar sized parcel just to the east of there is what is proposed to be split off. This ground, and if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, you can see that the ground is located in a low-density residential area for a comprehensive plan. So the parcel of ground is currently zone C2 commercial highway. That is a county zoning designation. I want to be very clear on that. There's some uses that are included in the staff report here. The Planning and Zoning Commission did ask for some information on the uses that were allowed via the county zoning ordinance. So those are listed on there. And then with that, just some quick background on this one. So staff did recommend denial to the Planning and Zoning Commission on this one, just because it was a future expansion of a business in our industrial business in a residential area that we have a planned residential area. However, the Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval of this to the City Council. Questions I would be happy.
So staff recommended a no and P and Z said yes.
Yes.
And the grounds for that was,
I think they looked at it as the current business that's in place can only grow so much. The applicant, I know the applicant's here this evening too, and I maybe asked for them to just clarify this a little bit if I get any of it wrong. But my understanding is there was a building that was built on the parcel, and because of some of the county requirements on this, they had to get a little bit of additional land to do some landscaping or some buffering or some grading of that parcel. And then in working with the property owner, the business owner was just going to buy the 5 acres because that's what they had agreed to.
And I can't find it right now. I read somewhere that it's not approved by council. The land will be sold. Yoder Family Trust will sell it.
There was some discussion on that at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, yeah, that the, if this particular request was not approved, that the Yoders might just sell the entire property to the applicant.
That was the case, then they could, what they wanted to with the property.
Yeah. Well, in line with what the county requirements are. So it's not inside the city, it's out in the county. We have that review over the subdivision of the property, but we don't have zoning control of the property. So whatever the county zoning would allow it.
What was why did the city say no?
Because we show it on our comprehensive plan as being a future low density residential area. It's an current industrial business showing to expand that parcel out there. Typically you don't want to have an industrial business in the middle of a residential area, albeit it's going to be a future residential area, but still we've got problems, I think, in a few other areas of the city where we have some industrial businesses that are close to residential uses, and they do drive quite a bit of the complaints that we receive.
All right, can you go back to that map while we talk about it?
Well, and that's exactly why I'm sitting here thinking too. I mean, I can tell you 2 or 3 different industrial applications right in the middle. We're out in the middle of nowhere when they first got started, and over the last 40 years that it's been moved to, and I don't want to set us up situation where future councils and staff have exactly what we've got in a couple of areas in the community. If that's what our comprehensive plan says is low density residential, I'm really reluctant to say yes on this.
This is already there though. That's the
It's there.
thing.
It is.
It's not, and if we say no, I mean, they still have the option to buy the other 5 acres. So it's 10 acres, correct?
The current parcel is about 5 acres. I don't know if that's exactly, and they're asking to split another 5 acres off. So it'd be about 10 acres in the end. I don't know the exact acre.
So, I mean,
I understand what you're saying, but it's also, we have to look at the precedents that we're setting, right? I mean, that's a real thing in all this. And so just because in this one, there's a contingency that, oh, well, they can go and buy it and get it done anyways. Right? We can't control that, but we can control what we can control, that we're given the right to do so. And, what precedents do you set by bending? That'd be my only question.
I think each
and at
county,
the same time, though, it's not in city limits, correct?
Maybe
So-
maybe hear from the applicant. I mean, I'd be curious about the expansion of opportunities from jobs, and kind of what their vision is here with that 5 acres. And we're making some assumptions, so maybe you can kind of explain what you'd like to do with the 5 acres.
Reynolds, owner of 105-3310 Reynolds Ag Solutions. I've been there since summer of 2013, 10 years. There's currently another building that falls in place with all the county's current building codes, applications, everything's been filed. What started this whole project was I was going to build a $60,000 retaining wall, or try to get Jim to sell 30 to 50 feet of the property, mainly so, I don't have to do anything, but I was trying to make it so I could keep it mowed, looking nice and respectable. Jim came back and said, did I just say 5 acres to make this more realistic purchase versus 50 feet? To make it worth both of our times. Currently today, I don't have any future growth plans for that. I'm not willing to say that I don't have future growth plans in 10 years. But my point to making exceptions to any rule it was just a few motions back that we did make an exception to a housing development. So if we're gonna bend on one rule, why can't we bend on another? And if that is a housing development, something, you can't walk in and tell me that I have to leave as an already established industrial commercial business. So I guess the way I look at that is there's also, so the farm has to be available for sale or to meet your comprehensive plan. And there's already industrial and agricultural north of there, and agricultural all around me, and I'm an agricultural business. So to me, it just makes sense. Our 63 is a farm to market road. I'm within a half mile of our 63. 10 years ago, when I met with the city development and Warren County Economic Development, they wanted me to go to the industrial park. And I said, okay, I'm more than happy to do so. But where is the industrial park today? Today we build houses all the way around it. I can't move equipment, farm equipment, up and down through city streets like Hillcrest. I can't move equipment past Hy-Vee on Iowa and up 15th. We're talking 20-foot wide of farm equipment. I don't think that that's probably a solid proposal for what my business is. And so that's when I was able to find a 5-acre property outside of town. It's been a great fit for me in the last 10 years. And I hope it continues to be. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I live just to the south of there, and from what I was originally told is that those parcels to the north of West Henderson there really can't be developed unless someone's going to put in sewage pumps, which was or a lift station, which was very, very costly, which is probably why it hasn't been developed to this point. And I don't know if
It'll get done. Trust me. We had the same situation on the east side of town. It gets done.
That's the hard part and stuff like this, like you want to have great grace and understanding for the current situation for the home, the business owner today, right? But we're also looking years down the road. Potentially life changes happen. Like I can fully understand your point on not wanting to, you have the right to expand in the future. That totally makes sense. Wouldn't if I were you either. But we also have to kind of look at it this way.
He's absolutely right. We just made exceptions on housing.
That's a little bit different situation.
Apples and oranges, I get the.
I think that we made a comprehensive plan for a reason, right? But things change. The economy has changed since that comprehensive plan. And so other things come out, right? I think perfect. Even that Blake made was that our 63 is a farm to market road. You're absolutely right. I mean, we love farmers, but I don't want all the trucks on our roads. Especially Iowa Hillcrest, it really hurts our infrastructure. So
That's the point why we're redoing it.
and I definitely don't want to limit his growth possibility either. Because he is in such a great area right there on the edge of town.
Well, I think the first thing that he said was he wants to be able to maintain it and make it look beautiful at the same time as operating his business. He's not, like he said, he could just buy 50 feet. But this is more feasible to do it this way. So to me, when he's trying to do the right thing, I don't see why we wouldn't.
But we have other businesses that try to do the right thing and where they are currently, and they're surrounded by residential. I get these complaints. I get these complaints all the time about business on the east side. And Josh has made a good point, in my opinion. I think you gotta look at what's going on down in the future here. And
How is it zoned, that 5 acres currently?
It's owned by the county.
It's owned by the county. It's not ours.
It's not even.
I know. So, I mean, really, ultimately,
So really.
we're walking near fail.
We would have to put up for his property too before we would ever even try to move forward because they're right.
Talking a subdivision.
Potential, I mean.
That he owns the land in between already. So unless,
Between the road and 110th. and
right, so before we can even move forward with that, he would have to be willing to sell us the other land. So
Sorry, I thought.
I guess that's my, if obviously he's not planning on selling that, so we wouldn't be able to move forward with that expansion anyway.
And we don't want you to sell either. We're really appreciative of your business here in town.
We are.
Or part of all this stuff. Charlie, what, it was split vote on commission?
Yes, 3-2.
What was some of the
The no votes on it.
absolutely, but the lot, I know there was
I
discussion.
think it was just concurrence with staff recommendation, mainly again, honoring the comprehensive plan and doing, residential and industrial don't mix if we do grow out into that area. Sure.
So did I understand that correct? So staff recommended no, but P and Z said yes.
Any more questions? Jackie?
Councilmember Dolby,
No.
Richardson,
No.
Schroeder,
Yes, aye.
Reed,
No,
Beach,
Aye.
Mayor Parker.
Aye.
Great. We don't get split votes a lot.
No.
So. This meeting it fails. Okay,
Bills.
all right. Move on to item 4. I need a first and second motion on a resolution approving a survey for Craig Goldman on behalf of Lee Adams for property addressed at 8919 Highway 6569.
Really quick background on this one, Craig Goldman has submitted a survey. The subject property does currently contain a single family dwelling and several detached accessory structures. It's my understanding that the property owner is in the process of demolishing most of these structures. So I just wanted to make sure that was said here. The survey is a boundary line retracement. It does not split or divide the parcels into new parcels. Really what's happening here is that this property has recently been purchased by this property owner. They're just looking to get their boundary surveyed so they know exactly where those boundaries are. However, there is a survey that's submitted that needs to be recorded by the county, and that does require a resolution from the council to either support or say no to it. This shows here what that survey looks like. Shows this area north of town along North Jefferson Way. It is located just across the street from the GMC dealership north side of town, and is located in an agricultural area on our comprehensive plan. So with that, if there are any questions on this one, I would be happy to answer them.
No questions? All right, Becky?
I did not get the motion written down.
I thought there was one.
Yeah, I think
Maybe. I was on one.
Okay, so
I'm sorry.
I think Charlie and I are just like, we're just gonna keep going. All right, so we have Steve doing a second. All right, there we go.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Aye.
Beach,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dolby,
Aye.
Richardson.
Great, item 5, you need a first and second motion on a resolution approving a plat of survey for Rex Brandfield Pelts Design Services on behalf of Robert Myers for property addressed at 2405 West Second Avenue.
make a motion.
Thanks.
Second.
Thank you. Now Charlie.
Yeah, as the mayor noted, this is one of the Deer Run commercial lots located on West Second Avenue, just in front of the Deer Run Golf Course. This plat survey would create parcel F, which is a 2.07 acre lot. This split is being proposed to be developed in the future for a commercial use. This shows the split of lot 3 onto parcel F. I'll tell you, just one of our first concerns from staff standpoint was that this one was seemingly cutting off the back portions of this lot. You can see on the on the southwest corner down there, there's an overland flowage easement that's located on there. If you're familiar with this property, that's actually a pond that's located on the property. So we did ask the applicant for a little bit of clarification on what the future plans for that area are. And I'll just skip to this screen here really quick, and they here kind of show what their future plans were. So this is just kind of a step one of selling this lot off, but there is possibly a future road network that would be in there to then provide access to that portion of the lot that is being cut off by this plat survey. Going back here really quick and looking at our comprehensive plan, that shows there that the area along the highway there is generally a commercial area. In this particular instance, it is located in a park and recreation ground. When we did the comprehensive plan, the reason that was done is because this was all owned by the golf course at that time. And because of that, it was put into parks and recreation land. However, one thing that is worth noting on this is that comprehensive plan is a policy document. It does guide future decisions for the council. The zoning that is in place is the driving force and the legal mechanism that you need to review on this. Since this is in the city limits, we do have zoning control over it. And this parcel, as it's being split off, is located in the C2 zoning district. So just wanted to make sure that clarification was made on this one, but if there's any questions on this, and I know the applicant is here, if there are any questions of them as well on this one, but I'd be happy to answer them.
So my question is, this is to be zoned commercial?
It is already zoned.
It's already zoned. And you're requesting, sorry.
Just approve the plat survey.
Isn't that right down the street from the property that we were just curious?
No, this one's on West Second Avenue.
Y Street.
Yeah, it's located
It's
just
literally
like there, yeah.
200 yards.
Yeah,
One ahead, yeah.
probably a mile or so away from it, I would say.
What happens to that pond then, Charlie? I mean, it's probably an irrigation pond for the course.
Yeah, I think it's used for stormwater management as well too, but that's something that we'll have to review when the commercial proposal does come forward to us. We'll require a site plan, full stormwater management plan to be submitted with it as well. To show how they plan on managing the stormwater that's coming off the site. So I'm not an engineer, but my assumption is they'll continue to use that in some way, shape or form to manage that stormwater.
So the proposed street that's in there, how far away from Highway 92 would that be?
So they show, and again, this is conceptual.
Conceptual, I
Yeah.
understand.
But if you show an access road that's coming off of 92 right here. Pointer's not really showing on there, but on the top of the screen, there's currently an entrance that comes into the golf course. That's off to the left there too. And then there'd be another road that would kind of connect there and then go all the way over to South Y Street. Okay.
Right? Any other questions? Jackie?
Councilmember Beach,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Dolby,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
I need a first and second motion on the resolution authorizing the city attorney to petition for title to abandoned property at 406 West Second Avenue, 206 South D Street, and 410 West Second Avenue.
So moved.
I was ready for that one. Also known as the Horseshoe
On
Apartment.
that one.
Really quick, and it was included in your packet. I've got it on the screen here above. If anybody wants to go over the timeline, that's where we've gotten to this day and kind of some of the process that we've been dealing with. Happy to answer any of that, but I didn't know if we wanted to go through the step by step, or I know we've talked about it a few times in the past, so.
So, can you kind of give a little bit on once we this process, basically the process for the petition? So we can have I know it's not speedy, but just a rough idea.
Yeah, so, and I'm gonna look to you just a little bit to clarify anything, but I've gone through this now with the 701 West Boston property. The one thing I would note with that one, that process still took about 6 to 9 months to get through. We had a non-respondent property owner on that one, which really did speed that process up. I don't want to speak on what's going to happen on this one, but my assumption will be is that we will have property owners that do respond to action on this one. I mean, you've probably gone through them with banks before, so.
You assume that they will. If you said you got 3 parcels too, you gotta assume one of them is. So does that slow it down a lot? Not really, but you could be looking at 9 months to a year if we have proceeding. We'll push it as fast as we can. But we're a little holding to the court schedule, but we'll get it done as quickly as possible. And usually we can get these fairly expedited. So about a year's expedited.
I think that's good, given, I mean, especially now this is not a multi-story building, but it is a very unsafe and inhabitable building. And given what's recently happened in Davenport, we always have to be conscious of these buildings that are hazards. So, yes,
Moving forward.
we are. All right. Any other discussion? Jackie?
Councilmember Reed, Beach, Parker,
Aye.
Dolby, Richardson.
Aye.
Schroeder.
Hi.
Moving on to other business, city managers report, which Ben Reeves.
A couple of things. The league conference is coming up on September 20th to the 22nd. Is there any council or there that want to attend that?
The what conference?
The Iowa League of Cities and Towns,
Oh, yeah, when's that?
September 20th to the 22nd.
That this year.
At Cedar Rapids.
Right, yeah, that's right.
Sorry on my calendar, but if somebody else wants to go, they can.
Use my allotted council.
Days, or how does that type of conference work?
I'm not sure in Iowa.
Well,
Is like their.
it's a reception. Yeah, you say Friday or the two big days, yeah.
Okay.
Is the exhibit hall, and then and they also have a leadership.
Oh, I just asking, just over there for work a lot and just
Thursday is
schedule.
the day of regular sessions that you learn a lot of workshops, and then Friday, a few workshops in the morning.
Usually done by noon on Friday.
But Thursday night.
Be open to, figuring out, I don't know if more than one can go, or even at the arm wrestle, or
No.
how that works.
My money on you.
We both can go.
Interested, Ben.
Right, very good. I already gave a report on the Hughes property and where we stand on that. It'll close this week. And everything is moving along really well with the YMCA and the conversion to the IWC. Lots of work is going on in the background on that. And just extending appreciation. We had a lunch this past week, but so many of our departments are just really responding well over the holiday and doing great work, and just good opportunity to say thank you. So any questions for me?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Right. I need a first and second motion to enter into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code, section 21.5, 1J, to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for the property or reduce the price the governmental body would have received for the property.
So moved as read.
Thank you, Jackie.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Hi.
Rabe.
Aye.
Beach. Aye. Parker.
Aye.
Selby.
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Like a 2-minute break.